Imprisoned by alcohol. Do you know what that means? How it feels? We can all feel trapped at times in our lives because of domestic situations, work, sometimes where you're living, maybe even sort of lifestyle, really. But all of those can be changed. You can move out from your wife, you can sell your house, you can change your job. They're not easy, these things, but they can be done. But I couldn't stop drinking, and I felt completely out of control. Now, a typical day of mine, as I've maybe mentioned before, would start by feeling absolutely horrendous. I never had an alarm clock or anything, because I didn't sleep properly. I was dozing on and off all day and night, really. So I'd wake up feeling dreadful, having nothing to eat the night before. Then I'd reach for the can of beer by my bed, normally a can of Stella, trying to have a couple of sips of that. Feel sick. Had a bucket by my bed as well. I was often sick into, but I wasn't nothing to be sick with, really. It was just bile. And I remember retching so much that my throat started to hurt. And that was quite a regular thing, really. It became a regular thing just to cough up this yellow and red coloured bile, to be honest with you. But at that point, I wasn't that worried about my health. I'd gone past that point. You know, if that happened now, I'd be straight on the phone. You know, get me an ambulance, or go to the doctor. I'm coughing up blood or bile or whatever. Can't eat, I can't, do this. But you get to that point, though, you don't even want to go and see the doctor. You get to the point of active addiction, as it were. So I'd start off by having this can of lager, then I'd put a little bit of maybe lemonade or something in and try and get it down. You need a little bit in your system before you can start to feel even as if you can move around. Because sometimes I used to just stagger about. I was so weak. But I wasn't drinking a lot by then. At the end of it all, 2017, 2018, I was just having a little bit of drink. But it was having a massive effect on me because obviously my system was breaking down. So I started with a little bit of drink, then you sit on the side of the bed. I never made the bed. The flat was a complete mess. The floorboards are gone. No hot water, no bath, no shower, no boiler, no TV. I couldn't bear anybody coming in to fix anything. A couple of songs on my iPad, which had a massive crack across it. I had a small radio as well. I used to listen to BBC Radio 4, so just something to have some noise in the background, because I felt lonely and depressed and all that. Now, these sort of things, they sound horrendous, but they creep up on you. And a few years before that, I'd been all right when I'd been off the drink. But when you start again, you relapse, you get into this stage of where you just decline. Your health declines, your mental health declines more than your physical, actually, I think. But that's something which isn't looked into, which needs to be looked into more deeply, more regularly, I think, the mental health side of things. So I'd have a couple of drinks and I'd think, well, I'm completely trapped in this flat. I can't get out. I cannot leave. I couldn't walk out. So I used to have to get a taxi. I get the taxi put right next to the door, which is nearest me. And it was even a struggle to do that. And I knew I had to get a supply. I knew how to go out. I knew how to get things. And it was a massive... I was so nervous about going out. I felt like I can't go out. What happens if I fall over? What happens if this happens? I can't get a taxi back, or I can't even get there. The weather sometimes was bad. When it was in the winter it was icy. Could I walk? Could I stand up? Could I, do this and It was anxiety built up so much that I couldn't actually do anything. I used to think, it's just like being in a prison. So I was just stuck in this flat on my own. The only people who used to ring me were my parents to see if I was still alive, basically. That's what they used to say to me. I hope you're still alive. They rarely came through. I used to say to them, don't come through, I don't want you here. Which is effing dreadful, really, isn't it? To your own parents. My sister used to come out from Manchester, and I used to try and make an effort to get myself put together a little bit for her, but she knew I was drinking. She knew I was drinking, even though I was trying to mask it with mints and Listerine and whatever you have to, you got to do. It doesn't matter. People know you're a drinker. When you get in my state, they did anyway. Everybody did. In fact, I see some of the taxi drivers now, they say, God, you've turned your life around. So your day would start like that, feeling dreadful, having a couple of cans of beer, try and get a taxi, go to the pub, and weekends, and pubs are much busier, as you know. And I always used to feel a bit nervous walking through. I felt paranoid. Is everyone looking at me? I mean, I must have looked a mess. I'd gone down about 9-10 stone. I'm 6'3", so I must have looked really, really ill. And I'd have a couple of drinks. I used to try and drink Guinness because I thought naively that would do me some good. It didn't make any difference, really. Try and have a little bite to eat, that faded away. Eventually I wasn't eating anything. Try and talk to a few people who are drinkers, but they weren't anywhere near as bad as me. And they all said, just cut down, you must stop a little bit and have a night off it. I couldn't have an hour off it, never mind a night off it. And I just feel this overwhelming sense of helplessness. Who's going to help me? What shall I do? Shall I kill myself? Shall I just die here? Shall I take an overdose or whatever, And I was just thinking, what am I going to do in my life? Because there's nobody there to help. The doctors, you see, had refused diazepam. That was my one thing I wanted, because I knew that would stop me from having a seizure, because I had seizures in the past when I just stopped. I was really worried about that. So I got this diazepam from the internet, which was a big mistake. So I was drinking a little bit of alcohol and having this diazepam, so it made everything worse, I suppose. So I'd have a few drinks in the pub, get back, and then I'm back to being trapped again, back in the flat. But I felt safe there. As soon as I turned the key, I thought, oh God, into what though? A squalor of a dirty, filthy flat with no food, just loads of beer and, mess in it. Rats running around, rat mess. It was dangerous to live in there. No floor in the bathroom. How I survived, I do not know. So my day was just completely a cycle of self-preservation, survival, existence at best, really. The worst time in my life. I can't even imagine now going back for an hour of living like that, because it was nothing. There was no life there. There was no future. I had no friends. I had no contacts. I had nothing, absolutely nothing in my life, other than I must get some alcohol, otherwise I'm going to pass out, otherwise I'm going to do this, otherwise I'm going to have a seizure. It's just worry on your mind all the time. Now, when you've got something like that on your mind all the time, your physical health deteriorates. But my mental health when it was so far down so quickly. So I used to be very confident. I was a policeman in London. I used to, do all sorts of things. And then I got to this point where I couldn't actually do anything myself, really. And I was just a feeling of despair and torture. Well, I'm using all these words, but what I mean is you feel completely and utterly isolated. It must be like being on a desert island with no sunshine. I had nothing at all in my life apart from empty cans, bottles, and the dialer drink, which I used to use to get more supplies, and obviously a bag full of beer I used to have as well. So I was crazy about the number of drinks I used to need. I never drank them, in the end, because I was hospitalised and it just got sold off. But that's another thing. That's besides the point. So when you're drinking and you get into this cycle of self-deprivation and you're completely trapped in it, you can't get out of it. It's very difficult to get out. We can't get out of it by ringing 999, what I had to do. I'm not suggesting everybody rings 999, don't get me wrong. But you've got to make some sort of effort to get out of it yourself. Because everybody in the world will be telling you, cut down, stop drinking, do this, do that, go to self-help groups, join the AA, whatever it is. Go to the AA means. That didn't work for me. But something has got to click in your brain. You've got to think, right, I'm going to stop. Now, what happened to me was, there was somebody who told me, you better ring the hospital. Basically, that was it. Then I got up in the morning, on the Wednesday morning, 19th, I think it was 19th of October, and I rang 999. But I had a few cans, just give me the courage. And I went to hospital, and they took one look at me and thought, I thought the look on their face was despair from them. Or you can admit it straight away. I had this huge distended stomach, which is a site-use fluid, and other complications. I was in the hospital environment for 2 years, so I was trapped in there as well. But that was a bit more controlled. When I used to get released, I used to come home. I stayed with my parents then. I couldn't look after myself. And I used to feel better in the hospital, because at least I've got some sort of expert help here. But when you're on your own and you've got this isolation and got this terrible feeling of loneliness and despair, and no one's here to help, you've got to do something about it. You really have. Because you will rot away and you'll die in your apartment or your house. or your car, wherever you're living. So I could have been living in the car. Fortunately, I had some income that would, pay my bills, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people lose everything. I've spoken to many people who've lost their jobs, lost their houses, lost their families and all sorts, and obviously people have lost their lives. It's a horrendous subject to talk about, but it's got to be out there. People need to be warned of the dangers, because I started out, like many other people, being a social drinker, and to me, a social drinker turns into habitual drinker, and then a problem drinker, and then dangerous drinker, and then basically you hear no more. So if you are benefiting from the channel, please subscribe, and if you want anybody else to have a look, just share the videos, of course. Any comments, drop me a line, and I'll speak to you soon.